As always, this episode is brought to you by Safe Cultural Heritage Group.
Okay, there's a bird.
Yes.
So there's a lot of birds. They love birds, obviously. They always talk about birds and snakes. Yeah, it's just a text where it's saying that you will die if you open this. So that also makes me a little bit happy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekend Talk, the show that brings professionals in cultural heritage directly to you. As always, this episode is brought to you by Safe Cultural Heritage Group. I'm your host, Megan Kamoric, and I'm an archaeologist and Egyptologist currently based in London. Today, I am joined by a colleague and amazing friend of mine who is not only an Egyptologist as well, I know, amazing, but she is also soon to be Dr. Percival. But here to tell us more about her research in Egyptology and then some. Hi, Josephine. Welcome to Weekend
Megan.
Talk.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's so great to have you on the show finally.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, for you, for those at home, I think everyone at this point knows what the outline of the show is going to be, but we will have you introduce yourself, tell us more about you, then I'll ask you some amazing questions, and then we'll roll out the red carpet for you to play a game and shout out anything you like. Sound good?
Great. Yeah, love it.
Excellent. Well, then tell us more about you.
Right, yeah. So my name is Josephine Percival. I am an Egyptologist. Currently, as you said, I'm doing my PhD halfway through this painstaking journey that it is of becoming a field doctor. I'm currently based in Sweden, moving around quite a lot, but I did my BA here way back in the day. Then moved in Egyptology and then moved to London to study my MA. I went to England, to Liverpool to study, to do my MA, also that in Egyptology. And then, as luck would have it, I just came back to Sweden to do my PhD here, returning to the crime scene, so to speak.
Where it all started.
Yeah, that is what it feels like.
How is that like transition? Because I know your bachelor's was first in like nutrition and stuff, and then you went into Egyptology.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Okay, so that is a bit of an odd, like a strange sort of journey, because it did start out in Egyptology, like just that one-off course, because you always have that one course where you go like, oh, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'll just do that, just to like fill the time or do something or like get my points or whatever, my credits. So I did that. And then like, no, there's no career in this. I won't go far in this. What else is on my list? So did nutrition instead. Moved across the country up north to study nutrition. And then I sort of, by the help of a friend, like long story short, I got really excited about a former Egyptology partners internship, like more so than my own nutrition dissertation. And that's sort of when it clicked that this is probably not what I'm supposed to do. So I packed my bags, just abandoned the north and came back down to Uppsala, where I'm based now, and went on with this instead. So I think that actually on my degree, on my BA, it does say that like in Sweden, we don't do major and minor like subjects. You just have all your courses, and normally you have that, a big one in just what you really want to do. But mine is just, if you look closely, it is Egyptology, like different courses, and then like nutrition at the end, and like something else that are just like, yeah, let's throw that in there. So I get enough points to sort of finish this off.
It's like you just turn the degree backwards and on the back it says nutrition.
Yeah, basically. I was trying to hide it. Like you just start reading at the front, like, yeah, okay, Egyptology, yeah, it looks good. And then when it's gotten through that part, it was like, yeah, she's qualified. This is just like hidden in the little notes, like, yeah, this nutritionist thing. It's
It could be like a National Geographic movie where you're like, okay, I gotta rub it with lemon and I gotta put a heat gun on it. Let's find this mystery degree. Oh, nutrition.
Yeah, exactly. And I did, at some point, I did think, like, should I combine the two, do one massive degree and just Egyptian archaeology and nutrition, and then that sort of just fizzled out. Maybe I'll take that up again. Who knows?
Yeah, you could always like look at nutrition in ancient Egypt, I guess.
I mean, it's not that far away, so why not?
No, might as well.
Yeah,
it could be a side project.
Yeah, I'll take that later when I'm done with this stuff. I'll circle back to that one.
It's fine, right?
Yeah.
So with then your undergrad in Egyptology, what was your focus? Like, what were you actually researching? What was your thesis?
So we had quite a linguistics focused outlook at Uppsala University, and still sort of have, even though it's been a little bit more become a bit more diverse. So I did a lot of courses in ancient Egyptian languages, and that I think sort of paved the way a little bit. I'm not traditionally trained like a lot of people here are, as you do archaeology first and then you do like a sidetrack into Egyptology. I just did all the Egyptology courses instead, just bulked up, no archaeology, just Egyptology. And that's quite different because it's even though it is archaeology, we as Egyptologists, there's that much history and there's that much else to it that you can be an Egyptologist and an Egyptian archaeologist without sort of being an archaeologist at the bottom. It sort of incorporates the entire thing. But I stumbled upon a sort of linguistic anomaly. I thought it was an anomaly. Whereas I found two synonyms that I'm a believer that synonyms don't exist, like true synonymity, but when it's the exact same, when two words mean exactly the same thing, because there wouldn't be a need for two words if they mean exactly the same thing. So that's sort of how I built, to be honest, the rest of all my dissertations, all my work, my PhD thesis on as well, just because there was that much to unravel there. But that's how it started. Just a little bit of a no, I don't believe this synonymy. No.
So I guess for people at home, like, what does that process look like from finding a synonym all the way to making a PhD out of it?
You just dig a little bit deeper and then you realize that no one has written anything about this. To be honest, a lot of it has just been a lot of, wow, I would have wanted this when I was doing my BA. So my MA was sort of like, I would have wanted this material when I did my BA. And then now for my PhD, it's like, well, this material I would have really needed when I did my MA. So it's sort of, and that's part of the process, I think. You sort of just uncover bit by bit. It's like, wait, hold up. Well, if these really aren't synonyms, then what else is there? What else do we think we know? What else has gone past the Egyptologists and the researchers, the linguistic researchers? What else have they missed that I can pick up and sort of spin on?
I like that. Language is very complicating, and I don't think people realize that. They just think maybe like, oh, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and that's it. They're pretty pictures, they're emojis. If you could describe the Egyptian language and like talk more about how it's evolved from hieroglyphs to obviously like what you study as well, how would you do that to some like an audience who doesn't know?
Okay, that's such a difficult thing because we're talking about like, I'll try and do it sort of concise, but yeah. So we're talking about 4,000 years of language history here, which is one of the oldest in the world, which is really, really good, especially for what we call diachronic studies. So when we study the development of language. So the opposite of that would be a synchronic study, when you go and dive into a specific time and you look at something that is stable in a specific time frame. It would be like studying Shakespearean English, for instance. That's a very specific sort of subject, and it doesn't change. It doesn't matter what came before or after. But so the language has changed quite a bit. 4,000 years, I mean, just look at English, how much that's changed in comparison to Shakespearean English, for instance. So that's just a few hundred years. Imagine 4,000 years of developing language. So there's quite a lot to unpack there. But if we start from what most people know, which is the hieroglyphs. That came about, I'd say just before 3000 BC, a bit before that. So we're talking about 5,000 years ago ish. And it started just as little pictures. What we think, or the earliest evidence we have of any kind of hieroglyph, is just as a label on an urn. So it was, what we think is that it was just marking either what was in it or who it belonged to. So sort of like a tag, like a graffiti tag almost, like this is mine. It's, when it comes to the language, like how you can read it, because that's, I think, the most, like, how do you read these? It's just, what? It's little squiggly lines. Yeah, what's that, grass? Okay, there's a bird.
Yes.
So there's a lot of birds. They love birds, obviously. They always talk about birds and snakes and men. And, you know, because that's what it looks like, doesn't it? If you take it at face value. But what you can say about it is, it's sort of like it's a game with words, or a game with images, but it's like piecing together a puzzle where you have only parts of the pieces, because we don't know what their vowels sounded like. So they didn't have any vowels in the writing system, only the consonants. So that makes it a little bit difficult as well, because if you think about English as well, if you take away all the vowels, you have loads of combinations, loads of different combinations of words. Like with one set of 3 or 4 vowels or consonants, you can create an infinite amount of words just adding different vowels to different places. And that's sort of the same thing that you do with hieroglyphs. And the way to tell them apart is always at the end of a word. And this is also quite tricky, because if you look at hieroglyphs, it's always like a string. There's no punctuation, is there? It's just like an insanely long line sometimes. And you sort of have to work out yourself where the sentence begin or end. But if you look at the separate words, they will always end with a specific little sign that will indicate what it refers to. So if it was anything that was naval, for instance, or had anything to do with boats, there would be a boat. If there was things that had to do with things that you said or that came from the mouth, it would be the picture of a little man with his hand in his mouth, just to so pointing to that, you know, it's for the word for speech, or for words, for instance, it is that. It's just a little man just with his hand to his mouth. And that's how you sort of know, all right, yeah, this I know, this is speaking. Yeah.
I like how you made that as simple as possible, and it's still complex.
I know, and it takes years to learn, but it's difficult to explain it as well, because it is not just the alphabet sort of as we know it. We do have to learn a complete set of different rules of how to learn it. But it is just the first time when you see an M instead of an owl, or you see the letter F instead of a viper, when you sort of make that connection in your brain, that is what's really interesting. When you've passed that point where it's just scribbles or just images, when it really, you start to understand what is there, the same way you would look at words in the alphabet that we use, and you'd see the sign, you'd see the sound of it, sort of.
Yeah, and it's cool to know that you have the hieroglyphs that everyone knows about, but the language evolved even past that. Like there's written forms, obviously advanced written forms. Oh, yeah. And I remember talking to like Luke about it, and he was like, oh yeah, hieratic, demotic, I know all those things now. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Well, you can try. But yeah,
I won't succeed.
No, exactly. And this is why sort of when you have a lot of the time you have egyptologists specializing in specific areas of the language as well, just because there is that much to unpack just there. And especially when it comes to the different written forms, because the hieroglyphs are just, they're really stylized. It's like we were writing in all capital. Like that's what it's basically is. It's so clear, and you know, you can tell one sign from the other. It's a joy reading those texts, because you know exactly what's supposed to be there. It's when you get to the handwriting, which they did often on papyri or on ostraca, which is just the like a ceramic, or what's it called? My English is just abandoning me now, but old pottery, like shards and stuff.
Yeah.
So they'd write that with ink a lot of the time, black or red ink, depending on what was being written. And that is like when we write cursive. And that differs from, well, we call them scribes, the people that were actually able to write in ancient Egypt. So the hand of the scribe differs as well. So specifically for the language stage that comes after late Egyptian, so we're now talking pre-Cleopatra, so just about, around 2,000 years ago, roughly. So we have when the Greeks came to Egypt after Alexander the Great, we had a big Greek population within Egypt, especially in Alexandria. Then the language was a Greek alphabet, but Egyptian, sort of. And that was written, or, well, the reverse as well. Actually, it's like hieratic, written in Greek. So it's really hard to get your head around. And we call those people that study that demoticians, because that's so difficult to learn. And that's an entirely, almost like a subfield that they do their thing. Because it's that difficult to learn and takes so much time, just because there is no real like hieroglyphics. You can't compare it to hieroglyphs like you could with other cursive writing of hieroglyphs, which we call, hieratic. But when it comes to demotic, that's just its entire language stage, and you can't refer it to anything. So it is really difficult to actually get your head around all of this stuff. Yeah.
Could you, for people at home who don't know, just like name the stages of the Egyptian language?
Oh, yeah. Sure. See, this is when you just like go on, and we can talk about dynasties.
And that's what I'm like, good thing I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But so we start, so the first sort of stage of Egyptian, and that is the pyramidic times, if we call it like that, because a lot of the texts that come from this stage, which is Old Egyptian, which refers also to the Old Kingdom, so the first bigger united Egypt that we see, they had Old Egyptian, and a lot of the text we have still from there comes from actually the pyramids. That's sort of where we get that from, and they had a specific way of writing as well. After that, we have Middle Egyptian, which is considered the sort of classic Egyptian. That's the language that they also used later on. The Egyptians used in the next stage, which is the New Kingdom, for specific writing that was supposed to be a little bit more, it was supposed to be forever. The language that was supposed to, or the writing that was supposed to be on temple walls or in tombs, for instance, were often written in Middle Egyptian because it was the classic one. It was referring back to, a time when they were a really, really mighty kingdom as well. Not that they weren't in the New Kingdom, but and then you have in during the New Kingdom, you get another a development off of Middle Egyptian, and that's Late Egyptian. And that is the difference, if we see, between the earlier language stages, so Old and Middle Egyptian. Late Egyptian is basically the difference between like good academic writing and text speech, like how you text to your friends. It's abbreviations. It's just little like letters. You barely make the effort to write out the entire word. That's Late Egyptian. It just gets a lot more simplified. And after that, like I mentioned, we get Demotic, which is when the Greek population starts coming in. And when that sort of dies out, we've had the Romans. We get actually a Christian population in Egypt. And for them, their language that they used was Coptic. And that's the last stage of the Egyptian language. And that is still a used language, although by very, very few people. And it is unfortunately dying, but some still use it.
That's amazing. A lot of people think that the Egyptian language is gone forever, but there are still remnants of it everywhere.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we still in Coptic, and I've studied Coptic as well. And we still get, you can see where it comes from. Specifically the really common words, like we have from earlier, the word for all or every is neb. That sort of turns into nim, but it's still in Coptic, so it's nim instead. We have nefer, which means beautiful or good in the older stages. That sort of turns into nofer. So it's still that connection to it. You can see where it comes from.
I love. I was going to ask, like, out of everything you've ever read, what has been your favorite text or type of text to read?
Oh, I don't know. Oh God, I have so many. I have so many. Okay. Genre letters, private letters is my top one favorite thing to read ever, just because there is that much obscure things in letters. And you'd think, this was their way of communicating without just talking. And you can find the most amazing things in there. We have hate mail, where someone is just using normal, like what you would write to be polite, but he switched it on. So it's just like, may you rot in hell. May you, well, not hell, obviously, because they didn't have hell, but it's a lot of profanities. I won't tell. But it's lovely. I love it. There is one that a mother sends from the New Kingdom, that a letter that a mother sends to her son because someone has found something out about them, and she's saying, well, you'll have to kill them and put them in baskets and send them in the Nile. And it's the most amazing thing, because you don't get any backstory. This is what you get, that someone did something, and people now, or the Magi, the sort of police force, now know about it, and shit, we're gonna have to kill them because this can't get out, but we don't know what it is. These things just, they get my blood pumping.
Amazing. And then with your own research, what kind of text are you looking at, and what are you trying to find?
Okay, this is actually a good test for me, because I've not been able to explain this fast or easily, but there is, I found out as I did my research during my BA and MA, somewhere in late Egyptian, so where we have that text-ish speaking or writing, the adjectives sort of disappear, or scholars say that adjectives disappear, and they're.
And what's an adjective?
Oh, so an adjective is any describing word. So we're talking beautiful, ugly, well, the good, the bad, the ugly. That's a great example, actually.
Amazing.
Anything that describes a noun, or, an object or a person, and just, describing features. We have color, size, what else? Emotions can also be used in an adjectival sense. And this is actually a good question. What's an adjective? Because I'm grappling with that myself at the moment to try and sort of define it. But my research is, I'm looking at all these stages that I've just sort of described, and I'm trying to find out what actually happens, because I don't believe that adjectives just up and leave, that they sort of just, no, I've had it, just throwing in the towel and just walking away. Obviously not. Something happens, but no one has really tried to figure out what or why. So I'm trying to see, okay, well, are they now expressed like with verbs instead, as like an act, something you do, or that it's a state resulting from doing something, like becoming beautiful or becoming that or something like that. Or if it's a noun, as in, she is like a beautiful one, for instance. It's like that it's expressed differently, but we just don't know what happens. So that's what I'm trying to look into.
No easy feat, but I have no doubt you're going to be able to do it.
I hope so.
You got this. I vote for you and for our audience. We'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we can talk even more about ancient Egypt, but in movies and video games. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. It's one of my favorite, like gaming and history. Oh, I'm here for it.
We'll definitely have you introduce that in the next part, your absolute love for all of it.
Oh, yes. Sounds great.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Or it's time to play a game. Yeah, I was about to say we're time to play a game. So my English apparently is not that good either today.
See, yeah, I'm having a bad influence on you, I think.
I know. I keep your English, like American English accent alive, and you just ruin my English.
Yeah, that's how we roll.
That's our friendship.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Well, because you're an Egyptologist and because you're an avid video gamer and lover of all things that are Egyptian media, I have made you a game. But before we get into it, do you want to talk to us more about just like this love for video games that you have?
Oh, okay. That probably started quite early. Well, I used to play on my granddad's computer before we got one. My granddad was super high tech at the
I love
time.
that he had a computer. My grandparents don't even have one.
No, he was tech savvy, that that man.
So proud.
Yeah, and so I used to play games at his, but I also have so my godparents' son, he played a lot of video games, and whenever we were over having dinner and stuff, I used to sit with him while not playing myself, but just watching him play, and it was so much fun. And that's sort of, I think, how it crept in and how it started. But the sort of combined love that I have for Egyptology or Egypt, ancient history and video gaming, comes from playing, like, and we're talking now like the old Windows 95, 98 sort of computer, the big white, that one. And there was a game, and I was like, I've been trying to find it since. I don't even know if it was a point and click sort of history style. Yeah, you got some footage from the Cleopatra movie. Is it with Catherine?
Oh, yeah. Is that Katharine Hepburn? What is that? I don't know.
Let's say it is.
Well,
but you all know, which one I mean.
Here.
Yeah. you know which one I mean. And it was about Pompeii, and then it was about Egypt. So and it was so interesting. And so I think that's sort of where where I got that from. And then it's just escalated, and now, yeah.
What has been your favorite historic video game so far then?
Okay, that's a really difficult question, because not to pick any favorite developer or anything, but I am a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed series or franchise.
I brought my little apple of Eden for you. Don't worry. Wait. Oh. Here we go. Your little Egyptian apple of Eden, just for you.
Oh. That makes me so happy to see.
I know, it glows too when it's done.
Yeah, I think the excitement when I realized that they were going to do one about ancient Egypt, I could not contain. And I've replayed it, I don't know how many times after.
It's really good. And making this game for you that we're about to play, I clicked right back into my Assassin's Creed Origins game, and I got so nostalgic, and I might have got a bit emotional. And Luke, my husband, was just like, "Are you okay?"
That game leaves no one okay.
No.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. Mm-hmm. If you haven't cried, I don't think you've played the game.
No.
Well, then, on that note, I guess we have another game to play that hopefully doesn't make you cry. Oh, here we go. Instead of Egyptomania, it's Egyptomedia. And so this game has 6 images that I did send you before this, just to give you a heads up on what this game was going to look like. But with each image, you can talk about either what the hieroglyphs were trying to say, what the inspiration was for that, what the object is. You can even talk about the movie or the video game it's about. And just kind of have a fun, full conversation about it.
Oh, yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Yeah. She's cracking her knuckles in the background.
Yeah, exactly. It's on now.
All right. There we go. Round 1. The Mummy, 1999,
Oh,
classic meme.
it is.
I like when they're yelling at each other across the Nile. It's how
Yeah.
I want to yell at all my research at all times.
It is one of the best scenes.
It really is.
Yeah.
And everyone is attractive, so I have no qualms with it.
Mm.
But here is your first image.
Oh, okay.
For people who haven't seen the movie, this is going to be holding Imhotep's organs. They open it up and a curse happens, and a mummy basically eats their souls, more or less. He eats one person for his eyeballs, another person for his tongue. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, you got to get those organs from somewhere. I mean, if
That's
they've
true.
decomposed, then.
You got to get some fresh ones.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But tell us about this image. Was any of the text pretty accurate, or could you read some of it?
Okay, so one of the things that I actually really, just apart from this being set in Egypt, it being a great movie, it had been Brendan Fraser in it, which is just, yeah, we can do an entire series just about Brendan Fraser. But
Yeah.
What I love is that they've obviously worked with Egyptologists for this movie, because this text is actually quite accurate. And if you've seen the movie, then you actually, the guy that is holding his little pinky there, sort of following the line up top, he's actually sort of reading what it says. So I don't know exactly, I don't remember exactly what it is that like he says. I think he says the wings of, so I think on the horizontal lines, the two in the middle, the vertical lines,
Vertical.
two in the middle.
Yeah. English.
So just direction doesn't matter. I think it's on, let's see, on one of them, it says that, oh yeah, so it's the one to the right that says that death will come very quickly for the one who opens this chest. And I think he says death will come on swift wings or something like that. But I looked really hard. I did not see any wings in there or any sort of interpretation to that. But artistic freedom, I'm all for it. I'm just happy that this text is actually saying what it should be. So it is, yeah, it is just a text where it's saying that you will die if you open this. It says, I think, actually, and you can see it up top. If you're an Egyptologist and you know Egyptian, you can see it up top. So on the leftmost one, the vertical one, there is a reed leaf up to the right, and then next to it to the left is a little chick. And then underneath that, I know it's hard to see, but that's a viper, a horned viper. And that is basically saying the start of the sentence and he. So they're already there just referring to that he, the owner of these canopic jars, the ones that held the organs, he will come for you if you open this. Yeah, it's just about him not being he who is not alive, or he who is not dead. Or he who which will not be dead. It's sort of, yeah, it really is like setting the scene for a curse. What does annoy me though is that in this scene he is tracing his finger backwards to how it should be read. So whenever you read hieroglyphs, you need to, like you should with everything in life, face it head on. So you read towards where the faces of the birds or the people are facing. And you expect that is especially for horizontal lines. Obviously, when it's vertical, it's a little bit difficult, but mostly it's just top to bottom with those. But as long as it's horizontally, you need to face what you're reading. And he is like taking his pinky from left to right, although where he looks at, where he sort of indicates where he's reading, he's actually supposed to read it right to left. And that is like, it's a tiny little thing that gets me a little bit annoyed, but saying that, they did do the research. I'm going to let that one slide.
Yeah, the people that made the chest did all the research very well. The actor on their head was like, I don't know, I'm just reading some lines.
Yeah. Well, normally it goes this way, so.
Yeah. They're like, just point. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's the thing as well. It's like a millisecond, and it's only us who know that are going to be like slightly annoyed by it. The rest of the world is just going to go, shit, that's really interesting, you know.
Yeah. I know there's another video out on YouTube if anyone's curious. There's a creator, Rachel Maskey, who interviewed Dr. Colleen Darnell. And I think Josephine and I are huge fans of her. So if she ever sees this, just know that we're like bowing down to you at all times. But even Colleen had said that he's reading it backwards. And it was really nice that you picked that up as well. So I do know that you watched the movie to get prepared for this interview today.
Yeah, it just brings back so many good memories.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you survived round one. Let's see how well you do with round two.
Oh, okay. Well, still, this is still, well, for all us knowers and Mummy fans, this is still from the Mummy, obviously. It's the key for the Book of the Dead. And that's an entirely different subject we will go into if we have time. But this is also quite accurate, and they're actually referring to the correct king here. So you'll see there is two seated figures. So on the left, you have Anubis, so the god of embalming or the dead, sort of, if we're going to be really like, yeah, he's the god of embalming, of mummifying. And on the other side, I think this is me guessing though, because I haven't looked this up, but it looks like just the generic god-like seated hieroglyph. You can tell it's a god because of the godly beard that he has.
I still keep trying to grow mine out. It hasn't
yeah, exactly. But so in the vertical line, you have it says Jed in Nesubiti, which is basically said by the dual king. And the dual king refers to him being the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, so the entirety of Egypt. Sometimes, well, across history, Egypt has been split in two, where they had the upper part and the lower part. Or the upper part and the lower part. We're going in the direction of the Nile here, so it's all very confusing. But this is sort of the emblem of a king. And in the little extra sort of what we call a cartouche, so the kingly sort of seal. Yes, exactly. Exactly like that.
Yeah, I literally like have my name in it. So I'm like, I had to wear it today.
Very nice.
Thanks.
That's a good time. I should have had something similar.
I know, come on.
Yeah, I know. But they've actually done a really good job here, because it does say the king. So earlier in the movie, they are referring to a specific king. I think it's Seti the First. So this is actually one of the godly or kingly godly names of Seti in this cartouche. So that also makes me a little bit happy. They did it with this too.
We're so proud.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually.
But if you want to talk a little bit about the Book of Dead, because I know that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not a real book. Never has been. Ancient Egyptians didn't have books the way that we have books. So that's not a thing. If anything, it would have been a bunch of scrolls if you had one that was written on papyri. And it's not just curses and stuff. It's like a guidebook on your way to the afterlife. So it would be quite important to actually have this with you when you died or when you were buried, because that would mean it would give you the power to the guidance to get to the Egyptian afterlife. And this is quite important as well. So the Egyptians put very heavy emphasis on words and the meaning of words. So for instance, if someone came to your altar or to your tomb after you'd passed and wanted to give you offerings, and they didn't have any, maybe they didn't have it with them, maybe they were too poor to bring anything, physically, there would be spells that you could recite, and that would sort of, as you said them, that would like metaphorically bring this to the dead. So you can say, oh, I'm offering you 1,000 loaves of bread and 1,000 jugs of beer. And that would mean that you've given that to the dead then. So, and you can also see it in fantastic little, especially in coffin texts and the pyramid texts, where they sort of cut the legs off the birds in the hieroglyphs, just because, well, otherwise they might fly away, or you're taking it off, especially if it was about something that was a bit bad. You wanted to make it a bit less bad. So if you took the legs away, or sometimes you chop the head off the viper, the little snake that has the phonetic sound F, which normally means he. It's a suffix pronoun for he. But even if it was in other words, they just like sort of detached the head a little bit. It was still there, just slightly detached, so it wouldn't cause any harm to the person in the tomb. So you can see the words was so important to them. But yeah, so the Book of the Dead then would give you spells so you can ward off any evil. It would guide you to where you were supposed to be, and sort of bless you to the afterlife.
Magic. I think I need that when I die. Just like someone give me a Book of the Dead. Just give me a bunch of scrolls, throw them on me, call it a day.
It's fine, yeah. Just a bit of dirt. I'll be fine. Just give me the scrolls.
Oh, good dirt.
Yeah.
What did archaeologists think to say? Just give me some dirt.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And if there are any Terry Pratchett fans out there, then, you can always have your potato. As long as you have your potato, you're fine.
I love that so much. If people don't know, please go give that a Google.
Yeah, please. Yeah. I won't have time to go into this. That's an entirely different podcast. We can do that too, but on a different.
So true. Okay, well, you survived The Mummy, 1999. I never survived the newest Mummy. What was that, 2017?
We're not talking about that one.
Or like The Mummy 3. We don't talk about that one either.
No.
But we survived the first one.
Yeah.
All right, Tomb Raider 2001. This is how I wake up every morning. I just hate everything. And then I have coffee, and then we're good.
Yeah. To be honest, this was one of my absolute favorite movies as a child. I know that one of the, I think it is this one, because it was two, right? When she finds the note from her dad in the book about William Blake, to see the world through a grain of sand. And heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in your palm and find eternity in an hour. I think it's something like that. I loved that as a child, had it written everywhere I could. I was such a fan.
So maybe get that in hieroglyphs for your tattoo, since I know you have some tattoo ideas.
Yeah, I might do that as well.
just show up and be like, just cover me in hieroglyphs.
Yeah. Then it would be to like that movie that we don't refer to.
That's true.
Yeah.
At least yours would be accurate. Right. So round one in this is those are both from her training sequence in the very beginning. So this one is an obelisk that she will later like run across.
Yeah.
Do tell us about this cartouche.
Yeah, this is problematic. I'm not as happy about this. Right, from the get-go, they're all written back to front. So the two signs up, so you have three signs up top, which should read, if they were, which I think is the intended order, is a su. But the eye is pointed one way, so the read sign, the rightmost sign, is pointed one way, and the leftmost sign is pointed another. It looks like the stalk of a flower. They're pointed in different directions, so you don't know which direction to read from. So this is obviously not a real cartouche, and we can see that it's the same design cartouche as it was from the key to the Book of the Dead and the Mummy. But this just doesn't work. And something, I know that I shouldn't like be upset about this, but the N, so the little squiggly lines, I want some more squiggly on the squiggly lines. There's usually a little bit more. There's usually more of them. But no, I like, obviously it's not been the same sort of research into this, which is okay because it's not that much about Egypt, so I'm fine with it, sort of. But yeah, I think they did a good job at like seeing the stylistic choices, I think, like sort of what it would look like, and they've done it well, because I've seen some horror examples where they just like basically thrown it there just thinking that this will work, but this actually follows the stylistic choices that you can see in Egyptian like real Egyptian text, that they did put so much emphasis on it looking good. Sometimes when you come across a word and you have no idea what it is, but it has the same signs as another word, but just not in the correct order, it might just be because it looked better in a specific order. It just fit the outline a little bit better. So they just like, well, it doesn't matter. We know what word it is. Well, they did. We don't.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Exactly. So you come across it, you can sit for ages and ages just not knowing what word it is because it's not in the correct order. And that's very common when it comes to the vertical lines, when it isn't the way that we're used to see it written, or used to see, any sort of signs written. We just, where do we start reading, and when do we jump down? When does the word stop? But they've done an okay job at trying to recreate that feeling of it being Egyptian. It's just that it doesn't really say anything.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a pass because this is her training sequence. So of course they've made this whole place up for her in her house.
Yeah.
So at least we know they're not trying to be like, oh, this is an actual temple. Look at this. It's like, no, we know it's just her playground in her house.
Exactly. And I mean, that could even be a choice that was made that is just doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be authentic because we're not even pretending that it is authentic. So I mean, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be too upset about it.
Maybe we'll just ask Angelina Jolie what the whole idea was behind it. Maybe she'll let us know.
Yeah.
Right. The second one then. Tell us more about this.
Okay. So like this was because I had to, well, I actually watched this movie as well recently, just be like, it's those movies that you sort of forget exist and you go like, oh, I need to watch this again. So, but I can't remember if this is actually the obelisk or if this is, because it looks like it is.
I think it's a coffin, like a sarcophagus type of situation.
Yeah. And this is like with the last one. This is also a little bit problematic, because here as well, the signs are pointing in completely different directions. They're just, it's even like, it looks like they've sort of written the EU sign that we saw before with the little leaf and then the little check, but they are also pointing in different directions. And it's in the middle of sort of what would be a sentence-ish. So it's like, it's a bit mumbo jumbo. And it's the same like over, so on the right most, you can see like it looks like the vertical one. You can see that it looks like a snake, and that is actually a cobra under what looks like two just circles. And I don't know what the two circles are doing there. I'm fine with one, but the extra one, no. So it's but then again, like with the last one, they've done some good stylistic choices here, because this is what it could look like. And normally you would have, so you see the bigger image of a man there. Normally you would have some people in the, or on the coffin or on the tomb walls, and it would represent you normally. The tomb owner in most cases would be obviously the biggest represented. So if there was any doubt on who is the tomb owner, just look at who is represented the biggest. Then that is the one who owns the tomb. But a lot of the time they would be represented on the coffin. And yeah, I mean, otherwise it's okay. I'm fine. And I mean, it's also the fact that, and I think a lot of people know this as well, maybe some don't, but the Egyptians had a lot of coffins. So this, the one that she's in front, would be just the outer one. Or sometimes it's even, the outer, there is another outer, it's basically like a Russian doll of just different coffins. But I guess that this is supposed to be the outer coffin in stone or limestone, and then as you'd open that, you'd find another coffin that would normally be made of wood and would be painted and intricately detailed. And it might be that this was also supposed to be painted. A lot of them, a lot of the coffins were. I'm not so sure about the stone ones though. But yeah, I'm disappointed with the inscriptions, but I'm okay with like the overall aesthetics of it. And actually, quite a fun one, because on the coffins, especially during the Middle Kingdom, when you have what we call the Coffin Text, that's basically the Book of the Dead, but you wrote it on the coffins a lot of times. That's why we call them the Coffin Text. So it wouldn't be unusual for you to have part of the Coffin Text, because it's quite rare that you fit the entire thing on the coffin. You have to have quite a big coffin and quite small print to fit the entire thing. But you could definitely get the feel that here would probably be maybe, if not just the identification of the owner of the sarcophagus or the coffin, maybe some spells to keep it safe, then maybe some just little pullouts from Book of the Dead, perhaps. But yeah, no, This is rubbish, so I can't read it.
It's rubbish. Oh yeah, the joys of Egyptology and media and hieroglyphs. They just think they're pretty pictures, and it's not. There's grammar involved.
Yeah, I mean, but it is what it is. And I mean, I think it's only when I started really learning Egyptian hieroglyphs that I sort of understood that, yeah, this isn't anything. But if you're not an expert, then you're not gonna notice, and you don't need to know necessarily.
Yeah. So. I think like you and I saw a woman with a tattoo once. It was like down her spine, which we both thought was beautiful, but it was just for the look of it. Like it wasn't actually meant to mean anything. And I think you and I can both say like, yeah, it is beautiful, and we aren't going to be mad at somebody who wants it on their body, but we also will say like it's not accurate.
No. Well, that might be like my Egyptologist side. I would rather have something that's accurate, but I mean, that's also difficult if you don't know the language. Then you have to source out, first a text that you like, maybe if you want it to mean something, and then know which signs. You have to know the language. But I guess that's also kind of how we. There's a tendency, well, at least a few years ago, to put Chinese signs on as tattoos, that sometimes it just looks nice. You don't really know what it means.
Yeah. Or like a tribal tattoo, thinking it's just pretty designs, but actually has a meaning for all of it.
Exactly. So,
yeah. But I guess maybe sometimes it's a privilege to learn those things if you have the access to information and the knowledge of how to learn it on your own. Because if you don't have someone teaching you, it's even more difficult.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And I mean, it's taken me years and years and years. And I still feel like I still have, when I look at text, I still have to, it's difficult to try and translate it just off the bat. A lot of the time, and you see it's like, oh, yes. And this is exactly, they read the text they've seen the first time. A lot of the time, that's really not how it works, because you need to know, okay, which part of the language, like which century is it from? Like, okay, so what can we expect? And then it's just about, trying to piece together, right, what can we, which words do I know here? And then you have to go back and sort of try and research, okay, what does the rest of the text means? But I don't know any Egyptologists that don't consult dictionaries for almost every text, because
always
you have to. Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to the next one then. On that one, as we were talking, Assassin's Creed Origins, I have no meme for it. It's just too beautiful for a meme. So here you go. But this was the promotional hieroglyphic background for it that I talked to you about, that I was having so much fun translating. So how did you enjoy it?
This is a lot of fun, just because it's fairly easy to translate, but it also depends on how much of the text that you have. Because like from this, some of the sentences are broken off, but they also continue on other places. So there's obviously, it's not just an entirely different text. We can see that in, for instance, I have one. Oh yeah, so the one to the left or to the right, to the farthest right, and then you have the one to the left of the Assassin's Creed logo in the middle. Those lines are the same. So you can sort of, even if you don't have the continuation or the start of the one to the right, you can still sort of, okay, this is where it is, or this is where it came from. But this is also really, really fun because they have worked with Egyptologists and they have created something that's actually translates to something. And it makes me so happy every time because it does translate to the creed. Like what, so I think somewhere it says, where is it? I think it's to the, it's to the leftmost ones, or at least one of them is, we work in the dark to serve the light, basically. So that is part of what in this game genre, what the assassins do. They work in the dark to serve the light. And I love that they've been able to incorporate this. It is utterly fantastic. But this is actually quite difficult to, it's difficult to translate if you don't have all of it. But they've done well. And with, like we said, this is, since it's vertical lines, this is quite difficult to see exactly where you should start. Like I said, it's always, going towards facing the birds, facing the people, and then just going down. But sometimes you just have to guess, okay, which sign is going to come before? Is this part of the word, or is this a preposition? Is this a connecting word? Is this, an adverb? I don't know. It's a difficult one, but
they did a good job. The signs are pointing in the right direction.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, but like I said, they did work with Egyptologists. So already there, they've done well in doing so. Yeah.
Proud moments.
Yeah.
Well, then the last one for this one. I loved this shield. I went on my game and my shield, that's this, is not as fancy as the one I found online. So this is courtesy of the internet, but do tell us more.
Okay, so like before, they've done fantastically with this as well. I can't say that I know exactly what shields would look like in Egypt. I'm not sure it would have all the cartouches on it. I'm not sure it would say all of this. I'm not sure it would be this embossed. It probably wouldn't be in gold, unless maybe for the king, But they've done a good job here. So if you start in the middle, which is basically what your focal point is going to go there. And we still, like with a lot of things, we have the cartouches. And even here, again, they refer to an actual king. And here, they refer to Ramesses II, which is actually king. He's son of Seti I, that was in the Mummy. So here we're seeing the son of that massive king. And this is actually, now I'm going to go into a sidetrack, just a teensy tiny one, just because it's very interesting. Because so Seti I was a great king. The empire under Seti I was magnificent. It was prospering. They'd expanded. It was great. And then come his son, Ramesses II, obviously has a bit of performance anxiety, because he goes on to wage wars, win some, lose some. It's not really that much like the battle at, I think it's Kadesh, where he tries so hard, bless him, and they come back with this massive story of triumph, and it really wasn't that much of a triumph, and but Ramesses II went on to live for ages and ages and have mass amount of children. But yeah, no, just a fun anecdote there that he had some daddy issues. Then below that we have also reference to the Mummy as well. We have the name of Anubis, Inpu. And you can actually see, so it's the three signs, the E, the N, and the P. So Inep or Impu. And then the little seated jackal, or the jackal-headed god. And this is sort of referring to Anubis. That's the biggest name we have there. And since he's a god, he doesn't really need a cartouche. But on the right, I think it's on the right. Yeah, so this is saying, also like in the Mummy, they've started off with Jedin, which is like, or said by. And then you have there that it is referring to him, or the epithet, one of the sort of titles of Anubis, which is the sort of master of embalming, or he who is in the place of embalming. So it's still sort of referring back to him. It's just not, it's just something that they, all right, this looks pretty, we know what it says, but it's actually referring to Anubis. And that, yeah, it makes me very happy.
They did a good job then.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. They did a very good job.
So should we play this game again? Should we stream it?
Yeah.
If anyone wants Josephine and I to stream this game, do give us a like below, because I want to, she wants to. Let's do this.
We have way too much information between the two of us about Egypt, about the time when this game is set, to just nerd out about it. You'd have
all the time.
It would be such a fun time, but we'd also get to talk about text, talk about the places, the sites, the people, because there are actually historical people in there. So yeah, please.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, you survived. Look at you. I made you some little hieroglyphs very quickly. Here you go. I also gave you a little trowel for Menem archaeology.
I saw that and I love it.
It's not a real hieroglyph, but it's there now.
Oh, well, I mean, they didn't have trowels back then, but I mean, we're bringing it back. It's fine.
Yeah.
Accuracy, like we talked about.
Well, then looks like we only have a minute and 23 seconds for the Zoom call before it yells at us again. So I vote that we rejoin, and we're going to give you the floor to give a shout out. Sound good?
Oh my. All right.
Oh my.
Well, that's a lot of pressure.
Well, for everyone at home, here's Josephine's Instagram, here's Menem Archaeology, and she will talk about Menem Archaeology more.
Yes.
After surviving a game. You did amazing.
Oh, well, it was so much fun. I want to do it again. Can we do it again next week?
Yeah, let's just keep doing it. We'll keep bringing new games for you, and we'll see how you do.
Please, I love that.
Well, then, after telling us who you are and what you do, surviving my Q&A and a game, you now get the floor to yourself to tell us more about anything, really. You can tell us more about projects you have going on, something that you want our audience to support or keep an eye out on. Anything.
Oh, God. There would be so many things. All right, we could continue this for like an hour more. I won't I won't do too much, all right? Something that we've been working on in the dark, like assassins. To serve the light. Now me and an old colleague of mine started a thing that you so very nicely put up on the little PowerPoint that we call Menem Archaeology, which you were also part of. Yes, we're just trying to get everyone in here, right? The cause is such as I think a lot of us feel like it was needed. So Menem Archaeology is an initiative to get more people interested in the real sites of archaeology and Egyptology, and basically everything across the Mediterranean. So Menem stands for Middle Eastern, North African, and Mediterranean archaeology. So we felt like there was a gap, and you and I have been talking about this for a long time as well, and me and my other partner Anna, we've also talked about this for a long time. Now, the research that comes out, like, and I can speak for myself here as well, like my research that is going to come out is not going to be accessible for most people. Even if you get to a library and you pull out my thesis or you pull out the stuff that I've written, it will not be in an accessible way. It will be written with a lot of academic jargon. There would be a lot of words that no one knows. And that's why it's also so easy to turn to the really easy explanations. There needs to be a forum and a place where people can come and see other parts of history and archaeology than these other, either these really, really complicated research results or these a bit out there theories about how history was made. We wanted to create something like that. So we created Men of Archaeology, where we try and find the really interesting little backstories, interesting places, maybe stuff that people don't really know about history that will make you connect and feel like you are a part of history, which we are in a sense. And this is why, like I was saying earlier, I do love to read Egyptian letters, because it does get you that feel for the mind of a person that's no longer here, and you get it from a person that has been dead for 3,000 years, but it's still there. So yeah, we run a web page where we post more intricate articles or longer articles, not intricate because we're still trying to keep it, accessible and fun and entertaining, even though it's supposed to teach people. But we also run an Instagram account, Men of Archaeology, where we do little shorter posts about just really interesting stuff in history. And I mean, I was blown away by the one that you wrote, for instance, just recently, the one about the but it was great, about the Roman emperor that suffocated his guests to death with rose petals. And that's just, where else would you hear about that? It's just, I love these little snippets.
Honestly, that was one of my favorite things to write too. It's something that you wouldn't know. And if you go to an art gallery, let's say, because that piece that I wrote is about a painting, and if you go to an art gallery, you're just going to think, oh, look, a lot of roses, flowers, people are frolicking in flowers and getting
they look
drunk.
like they're lounging,
Yeah,
they look like they're having a good time,
being murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's some artist for you. Even people can die beautifully in some
Yeah.
paintings.
So that's why, I'm glad that you liked that one. And like you said, everything that we write is accessible on our Instagram. We have posts. Go check out Men of Archaeology. It's amazing. And our website is linked onto that Instagram as well. So do keep an eye out. Josephine already purchased a phone case from us, so she just put money back into her own pocket.
I'm gonna plug this now, but just because it is pretty, all right? So
it is nice. You designed that too, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I have my fingers in all little bits.
Yeah, because you were like the designer basically for Men of, aren't you?
Yes, I am the creative art director.
So proud.
It is a lot of fun. Like, this is also the thing. Like, it's even though my subject, and maybe because my subject is that specific, and I zone in on such very niche areas, it is so nice to be able to do all these other things and I get to do this. And I mean, we do it not for any sort of at the moment at least, for any profit. It's just we need this here. If it comes to profit later on, then that's a great bonus. But to be able to do something like this is just it's so much fun.
Yeah, I think any money we would make down the line, you and I have both discussed just putting it back into making more things more accessible. So being able to go to museums and digitize just walking through them, or digitize collections and make it accessible for people that don't have any resources to do so and learn things.
Exactly. And this is also, I think that a lot of people are a bit afraid maybe of asking researchers or, get in touch with people that at universities or whatever, experts, just because, what are they gonna think? This is stupid questions. But we love, like you've seen today, we love talking about what we do. So it's never, you never have to feel like you can't reach out. And especially that's also what we want to do with Menem, is to be able to be that sort of mediating center where you can reach out about certain topics that you wanted to, well, I just found out about this. Can you cover this? Can you tell me more about when this happened, or what about this? Or can you teach us something new that we don't know,
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything that you're looking forward to having up on Menem soon that we should all keep an eye out for?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, being a linguist, right, and doing Egyptian languages, we have actually, from one of our guest writers, an article coming up about ancient Egyptian script and the ancient Egyptian writing. So if you liked anything of this, that should be up fairly soon. But we have some topics as well for the summer that I don't want to give it away, but we have some good stuff coming. So if you're interested in anything that has to do with any sort of archaeology around the Mediterranean, we're your guys.
Okay, amazing. So we have Menem. Anything else that we need to know before we let you go?
That's so much, but there is no time.
There is never any time.
No, I could talk for ages and ages about this. But no, I'd say
Yeah, well, hopefully eventually we can have you back onto the show.
I would love to. That would be so much, with all of this. That's fine. We just love to talk about our research. So yes, love to do that.
Amazing. Well, then I guess that's it then. We survived a whole day with an Egyptologist and an Egyptologist. Well, thank everyone so much for watching this video. Of course, if you liked this video, please give it a like down below. And if you want to watch videos like this, do hit the subscribe button, because we post about twice a month and we have fun here, don't we?
Oh, we have so much fun.
Perfect. Well, then hopefully we see you soon back on the show.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.